Let's talk about perspective. Sorry we weren't able to cover everything in class today. I've started a new canvas. It's a 16 by 9 inch canvas. Make sure it's set to inches. Alright, so first thing I want you to do, let's talk about 1-point perspective. So I'm going to change my brush to this hard airbrush in the airbrush tab. You can use whichever brush you'd like, but I feel like this one has a lot of good benefits to it. Alright, so a few things that I need you to know before we get too far into it. If you press your pen down on the canvas, drag across, and click and hold, you don't pick up your brush between there, it's going to lock it so that it's a straight line. If you put a second finger down, so I'm going to put my thumb on the canvas, now it's locked to horizontal. If I move my pen up and down, it's not going to let me move it unless I want to go more than 45 degrees. Okay, so let's start with that. Let's draw our horizon line down the middle. And I'm going to label that HL. Now I'm going to draw a mark down the middle. We'll just make it pretty small. This is going to be my vanishing point. I'm going to call it VP. You could also call it VP1. Alright, I'm going to click the N here next to my layer. So here's this check mark. I'm going to click on the N and lower the opacity. And I'm going to tap on this layer and click rename and call it horizon line HL. Let's add a new layer. Alright, so let's start with doing a cube. And we're doing 1-point perspective because we have one vanishing point here. Let's draw a square in the middle of the horizon line, around the top and around the bottom somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to do that really quick. I'm just going to duplicate that, move those around, duplicate that, rotate it. Okay, something to keep in mind is we can do it at any scale. It doesn't have to be a perfect square. And I'm going to merge all of those together by squishing them down with my fingers. So I'm going to put one finger on the top layer, one finger on the bottom layer, my pointer and my thumb, and squeeze them together like that until they combine. So I'll call that squares. Okay, what you're seeing on all of these is the front plane of my cube in any of my cubes. I'm going to add a new layer. This layer, I want to connect all of the corners of each of my squares to the vanishing point. So I'm going to lower the opacity so you can tell which one I'm drawing with. And I want to connect from here to each corner on each square. So let's do that really quick. They need to be straight lines. They need to be as close to the vanishing point as possible to be as accurate as possible. I'm going to do the same thing up here. And over here. So we're connecting from the vanishing point to each of these corners. You can see it got a little bit moved over here. I'm going to go for where all of the rest of them are at just to be accurate. So now I'm going to turn this layer back up. I'm going to turn this other layer that we just did, lower that opacity. So this is what it should look like at this point. I have all of my z-axis lines going to the vanishing point. Everything that is meant to be vertical, my y-axis is going perfectly vertically. Everything that is meant to be horizontal, my x-axis is going perfectly horizontal. Let's add another layer. Alright, now what I need to do, I'm going to focus in on just this cube, is I need to replicate, switch colors, I need to replicate this line somewhere in depth. So that can be back here, that could be up here, but it needs to connect to the line here and this line here. We could do it really close, make a really skinny cube. We could go further back, make a thicker cube. Wherever you put it, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna put it here. Alright. As I go through, I'm gonna put my finger down as I draw my lines to make sure that they're perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal. So I'm not just letting it go wherever. I'm putting a finger down until it connects with that lower line. Now that I've done that, this line is going to go straight horizontal from wherever it intersected, right here. And same here. Both are going to go horizontally across until it intersects with the next line. And that's going to represent, so this edge here will represent this edge here, but in the back. This edge here represents this edge here. We need to get this one, so we need to connect to this line and this line. So we'll keep going. That's going to be perfectly horizontal. This and this one go together. And lastly, that's going to be perfectly vertical to close out the cube and get these lines here. Alright, oops, don't know where that came from. Okay. So let's do that on all of these. We need to get this line first. So I'm going to put a line down. All I have to do is make sure it connects to the line that touches these corners. So this line here, this line here, and now I have two shapes. Sorry, two edges. So now that I have that, let's get these two lines. These are going to go straight across horizontally, and they need to keep going until they reach the edge that connects with the edge that we're going towards. Let's do that again. So I could connect to this edge, right? I could stop here, but that's not going to give me a cube because I need to connect to the line that connects to this edge because we're matching this one. So this line, if I trace it all the way back, goes to this corner, and that's not the corner that we're trying to connect to. We want this one to this one, not this one to this one. So let's continue that line. It's going to go horizontally all the way across. Okay, so now I have this edge that goes to here, this edge that goes to here, this edge that goes to here. We now need this edge. So that means I just need to connect across to make sure I close out my box. Okay, let's do this last one. Again, we can slice this wherever we need to, right? Let's make it pretty narrow. I'm using this line and this line, this line and this line, because I need it to connect to these corners. So now I need to connect across to this line here because I need it to connect how this one did. So I'm going to go perfectly horizontal. That means I need to put a finger down to match it to that horizontal line. Draw right across. And where those intersect should line up with each other. So now we've just recreated this edge and this edge, but a little bit further back. There we go. And lastly, I'm going to make another layer. So I'll call this back face. Maybe. There we go. Call this front face. Let's add one more layer. I'm going to do this in another color. I'll do orange, I guess. And all I need to do, I'm going to turn off these construction lines. Turning these layers off. I'm going to just connect my side edges. So before, with my construction lines back on, you can see where it's connecting here. So we've got these lines here going across. We've got these lines. All we're going to do is fill those in. So you can either leave your construction lines on or off for this part. But what we're essentially doing is connecting each corner together. Okay, so now we have our cubes. I'm going to shade these in just so that you can see more clearly what's happening. So we'll use this blue, I guess. Okay, so we have our cubes now. This is kind of what we're looking at. These blue faces are the front face. They're the ones that are closest to us. The orange faces are the ones facing to the side of us. The pink faces are facing up and down. Note over here, since this is crossing the vanishing line, the horizon line. So here's our horizon line, right? Since it's doing that, we can't see below it and we can't see above it. We can only see these two sides. Okay, so we have our cubes. I'm gonna grab all of those, group them, and let's do a duplicate and flatten it. You don't have to do this part, I just want to make sure that we can see what we're doing. Okay, let's continue, and we're going to do some cylinders now. Yep, let's do some cylinders. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is draw another cube. So I'm going to do a few vanishing lines from here to get the bottom plane of my cube. And really I'm just working backwards from what I did earlier. So now I have the bottom plane of my cube. Alright, I'm going to draw straight up. And here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this drawing assist, lower the opacity a little, lower the grid size a little, change it to blue so it's less visible. And what I'm going to do is click on my layer and say turn on drawing assist. So right now my drawing guide is turned on. I used edit drawing guide to get to that page. And then I tapped on my layer and said drawing assist. And check that on. What that's going to do, since it's a basic grid, is it's going to lock my drawing so I can only draw up and down. So I've got a few construction lines started, and this one's going to be too high. It might not be, we'll see. So now I need to connect these front two and turn off my drawing guide, connect my corners back, turn back on my drawing guide, connect across. That's another way to make our cubes if we need it. We've got a little bit going on here. I'm just gonna, let's make two of these actually, sorry, before I move on. Let's do another one up here. We can do it to the side. So, oops. I'm gonna draw it from here. Turn off my drawing guide. Turn it back on. Okay, so we're going to do these two cylinders. We could do one more that's on the horizon line. I think you should test that out. Okay, so I'm going to say construction groups. Construction cubes. Okay, that's my first part. I'm going to lower the opacity on that. The next thing I need to do is find the center point of my planes. So I'm going to start with this one down here. And what we need to do, and if you open up the notes from today, this should have these, the tutorial almost kind of written out for you. But just from the front view, here's an example. I have a square. If I cross an X through it, that's going to give me the center point. So my center point is right here in the middle. I need to find the midpoints on the side. So halfway in between. And halfway in between. Okay, so you should kind of have the snowflake shape. It's cut into quarters and then eighths. What we need to do on those diagonal lines is find about 2/3. And I'm just going to eyeball it. That looks like about 2/3 to me. For those outer 2/3, we're going to connect from, I'm going to add a new layer just to give an example. We need to connect from here across, and it should give us a kind of ellipse shape. And I know this one's going to be too low in just a second, so I'm going to overshoot it a bit. Okay. So I'm going to try to hit all of those, and if I click and hold and put a finger down, it's going to give me an ellipse. And you can see it's almost right. Some of my 2/3 are a little short. Okay, so that's essentially what we're going to try to do over here. So I'm going to connect across. Connect across. And that's going to give me my center point. Now I can connect across here. And this is going to give me in perspective what's the center point, because sometimes it's not easy to tell where exactly is the middle. And then to get to that center line from the vanishing point. And this would work if you used a ruler on paper. This would work if you're doing it on Photoshop. This will work anywhere. Let's get rid of these. I'm going to select all of that out, tap on my layer, and click clear just to erase that. Okay. Now what I need to do is find those 2/3. And let's go back to that other layer. And I'm connecting these spots, right? Okay, let's do it. Oh. That's pretty close. The other way we can do it is to draw a flat circle. Make sure you put a finger down to make sure it's a perfect circle. And we can drag it around, choose distort, and put these dots, oops, let's turn these off. Put these dots on the corners where they correspond. Now you can't do that if you're doing it with a ruler and paper. So I wanted to make sure you know how to do it either way. Alright, now that we have all of that, all we need to do is draw a straight line from both outer edges, straight down. So we'll go straight down, straight down. You can see I'm a little bit on the outside here, so let's undo that really quick. Scooch that over. Let's do it. Alright, so I have my cylinder this way. Now let's do another cylinder to the side. And I don't need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. And actually, yeah, let's leave it. So we know we need to connect to these corners. What we could do is just drag in our circles now. I want to make sure that I'm showing you how we go about it though, so let's make sure that I'm connecting through. I'm finding the center point. I'm going to do that on the other side plane. So now I know my center point is here and here. I'm going to turn on my drawing assist so that I get perfect vertical and horizontal lines automatically. I'm going to draw some vertical lines going through that center point. And then I need to draw center lines in perspective, which means I need to come from the vanishing point. And it needs to cross through that snowflake, right? And we'll do that again. Make sure we're crossing through the snowflake. Okay. Got all of those. Okay. And now I need to cross through the 2/3, the outer 2/3, and the straight edges of my snowflake. This one's a little bit deceiving because it's at a pretty harsh angle. Let's just see how we do though on our own. And then over here, I'm going to show you the other way. I'm just going to draw a plain circle. Move it into place so that each of the corners match up. Okay. Now I can hide those construction lines, turn on drawing assist, and connect those edges. Let's go a little bit further down. There we go. And now we have 2 cylinders. Alright, what if we needed to find the midpoint of those cylinders? Let's turn back on our cube. If we needed to find the middle point of those, we could find it by doing an X through those front planes. That's going to be my midpoint, so I'm going to turn on my drawing assist. Whoops. Okay, and then I'm just going to make a flat plane going back to this vanishing point. So I'll turn off my drawing assist. And what would happen is this goes all the way through, but I don't need it to go all the way that way. I can just see where that would have gone to. So you can see where it's intersecting there. Let's do that again. Cut that in half. Okay. And we could draw our circle, put it into place. And when I take away my construction lines, that should give me that midpoint, almost a slice through my cylinder, you see? Okay, let's get rid of all of that. Turn off those construction lines. One other way to do a cylinder, so we did it up and down. We did it to the side. We also could do another cylinder going towards us. So what that would look like, we could do, well, actually it takes a little bit less work. So let's go on our cylinder layer, turn on our purple that we've been using, and turn off drawing assist. If I draw a circle, as long as this circle repeats into space towards my vanishing point, we will have a cylinder going back into space. So I'm going to duplicate that. Let's just grab this piece. And down here under freehand drawing, I'm going to hit the copy paste. So now I have it on its own separate layer as a copy. And let's draw from on the construction line layer. Here we go. Let's connect these outer edges to the vanishing point. Let's move this down, and it needs to shrink uniformly, but we can fit that into here. We can make a really long cylinder if we wanted to. All we need to do is make sure those edges are touching these outer edges just like they were up here. So let's leave that the way it is. I'm going to merge that down so that I have everything on the same layer again. And I just want to connect these edges that are not part of the construction line. So that if I turned off my construction lines, I'd still have my cylinder. And so if I were to cover what's see-through, this is the edge that would be disappearing. And let's go ahead and do that for these other ones too, just so that I can tell. The reason for that is we're looking down at the object. So we're not looking up at it and this is behind. Because it's below this horizon line, we're looking down at it. Over here. Okay. So we have our cylinders. I'm going to rename it cylinders. And I'm going to select those, group them, duplicate it. I don't need to duplicate that actually. We'll call that cylinders. Oh, I see. Let's lower the opacity a little so we can continue. Okay, so we've done cubes, we've done cylinders. Let's do pyramids and cones. So pyramids and cones are going to work really similar to cubes and cylinders. Honestly, the hard part is over on those, but when we get to spheres, you're going to lose your mind. Let's start by drawing a plane in each direction. So let's switch colors. I'm going to choose orange this time maybe. No, let's do blue again. Alrighty. I'm going to turn drawing assist on. I want a plane going that way. Let's do another one over here going this way. Let's do another over here. We could do it going this way. Yeah. Let's go one more over here. Okay, sure. I'm gonna connect back to my vanishing point. Turn on drawing assist and slice it so I have a plane. That looks good. I'm going to do that for all the rest of these. Drawing assist off. Turn back on drawing assist. Okay, now I have my planes. I'm gonna add another layer. We'll choose pink, sure. Alright, so now if it's either way, we need to find the center point for all of these. So what we need to do is connect across, get those X's. There we go. Alright, and now let's draw across. So now we need to get the height / the length of our cone. So let's turn that off. So what that means is if I have my little cone, I need to get this part here. So I need to figure out this height. Same if it's a pyramid. How tall is my pyramid gonna be? Is it a little squatty pyramid? Is it a super tall cone? Okay, you get it, you get it. So now we need to find the height for all of those. I'm gonna drop a line either down or up, and you can decide either way. This can go either direction, so it could also go down, it could go down here, it could go up here. On these, it could go left or right. Either direction, it's all going to result in the same thing. All we know is the base of a cone or cylinder right now. So let's go ahead and drop those lines. I'm gonna switch colors so it's easier to see. Let's do a tall one and a short one. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, so now if it's a pyramid, all we need to do is connect each corner to the top of that line that we just drew. So our final result, let's change colors. It's going to look like this. And this back line is going to be, if we're looking through the shape. Okay, let's turn back on our construction lines and do that again. If we're doing a cylinder, or sorry, a cone, what we would do is draw our circle in here, our ellipse. So let's do the old trick. Face that the way that it goes. That's good. And all we need to do is connect these outer edges to the height of the cone or prism that we designed. So for that, this is going to be my see-through edge. Let's lower the opacity on these a little. I'm going to turn off my cylinders and cubes for a second so I can see better. And let's do a couple more. These can go upside down or right side up. Just as long as you're connecting from the corners to where they need to go. Make sure you draw in that base of the shape. Sometimes people will forget. Okay, and we'll do the last one as a cone. So I'm going to draw my circle. And all I need to do is connect the edges to that top part here. That's going to be my vanishing edge here in the back. If I turn off my construction lines, we have some shapes in perspective. And if I turn back on my cylinders and cubes, it should look like everything is kind of in the same universe as each other. Nothing is going in an odd direction. It all feels like it lives on the same world. So we did cones, cubes, cylinders, pyramids, and now we need to do a sphere. Okay. Let's duplicate that. Okay. Let's hide all of these for a second. Alright, to do a sphere, you're basically combining everything that we've done so far. So you might think that you're just making a circle in the end. You are essentially, but I want you to know how it came to be that circle. So this one's going to take a little while, take a second. I'm going to turn on Drawing Assist. And let me show you one more thing. I'm going to click on my wrench, edit my drawing guide, and now I'm going to switch it to perspective. And I don't really want you to draw everything this way, but this is going to speed up the process just for getting those straight lines. I still want you to know how it works, how it's done, but this might just speed up that process for us. So I'm going to click to add a vanishing point where my vanishing point is at, and click done. And it's going to, Procreate is going to lock everything so that I can only draw in perspective. So all my lines will only work if they are horizontal or vertical or going to the vanishing point. That does mean that I can't draw curved lines now. That's okay though. Okay, I'm going to turn on these just to see what I'm overlapping. Okay, so let's do it here. I want to start by making a cube. Let's do it to an edge actually. gonna hide the cylinder. Okay. Let's start by making a square, connecting that to the horizon line, to the vanishing point. Make sure you draw the back edge. And here, I want to try to eyeball it for a relatively cube-sized cube, not a cereal box and not a shoebox, if that makes sense. Try to keep all of your edges even, that's all I'm trying to say. So that's my part one. I'm going to lower the opacity, the appearance of my grid. I'm going to turn off all these other shapes to not confuse you guys. And let's change colors. The next thing I need to do is find the midpoint of all 6 sides of this. So I'm going to do that on a separate layer for each one. That way it makes it easy to see. Oh, something happened back here actually. Hold on. Let's redo that package. That way we have just a little more precision. No. Don't know why it's giving me a little bit of trouble with that, but that's alright. Find those midpoints. That should line up here. And for that up down line, let's do this one. Okay. I'm gonna hide these and keep going. So we should start to see how that's connecting all the way across. And for those vertical lines, I'm actually going to switch this color to a green. Just for this front edge, you'll see why in a second. Let's get the back edge. Okay. And then let's get the top and the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now we have the center point for every edge of my cube. That looks like a crazy, hectic mess. Don't worry about that right now. What I need you to see mostly what I need you to be seeing is these planes that we've created. So when we did that, we ended up with a center plane here. Let's just make that a square. We ended up with a diagonal plane this way. And we ended up with a horizontal plane this way. Do you see how that's intersecting? Now we can get rid of this craziness. Okay, so with that, we need to make an ellipse for each of those new 3 slices. So I'm going to do that in our colors. I'm going to do it the easy way. Distort it into place. So I'm just going to stick these corners where those corners are at. Move this one so it corresponds over here. And let's do the blue one. And this one should be uniform. Maybe it's not so uniform. That's probably what tripped things up earlier. Just a little. Okay, so now if I took away these slices, we kind of have almost this globe orb shape. So the final result I'm going to do it in black so that it's our final. It's going to be the circle that goes around everything. So it's going to wrap around all of these edges. And what we can do is, first of all, I'd like for us to leave these on. Is we can almost wrap a rubber band around this shape now. Because we understand the form now of our orb. Turn this one up. Use that as one of them. As it gets closer to the horizon line, it should get flatter. Got away from me a bit. We could draw a line through that center point, that green shape from the back, or in the middle. And that's where we're orbiting about. Okay, so I'd like us to do something like that, where we have a pole and we can see almost those latitude, longitude lines. We don't need to do these ones, but we could if we wanted to. Do you see? Okay, so I'm gonna combine all of that. Group. Sphere. Okay, so at this point, let's turn everything back up. Duplicate that. Come here. Duplicate that. And on this cylinder, I'm going to erase a little bit of that away because I don't want it to be in the way of my sphere. Probably shouldn't have done those on the same spot, but that's okay. And then same with over here. Let's let that cone overlap it. And then for my cubes, I'm just going to leave them as they are. So now we have all 1 point perspective. Let's go through and count every shape that we have. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I could get rid of this cylinder if I needed to, but I'm going to leave it up. Alright, so this is a page that I want for your homework. This is part 1 of like a lot, so let's keep going in the next section.